Welcome to East Tennessee Pinball. Today I've got up this Road Kings again. If you've been watching my channel, you've already seen this one. It was done. I thought it was done. Game decided it wasn't done. I was doing a little play testing and I was getting a tilt. And I'll put a picture up of the tilt bob. It had a really ingenious way to make sure it wasn't tilting. I'll put that on there. I didn't get a video of it, but I'll put a picture on there right now. So when I saw that picture, I was like, wow, well, they didn't want it to tilt. I mean, somebody really, really didn't want it to tilt. I'm thinking that was done because they were getting random tilts and they didn't know why. I'm still kind of in the phase of not exactly knowing why, but I've got a clue. So, first off, I'd say it was doing it during a multi-ball, which is a little bit of a clue, but it was just like I couldn't get it to do it reliably. But then I started noticing this right slingshot. It seemed like the ball would hit that and it would tilt. Right slingshot. So I started thinking that was involved. So, you know, there is this whole weird thing with the, I've got a picture of the switch matrix here. You can have these situations where a group in a rectangle where if you get two of them that would form a rectangle, two of them closed, and then let's say the third one in that same rectangle has a shorted diode, then it will get a phantom closure in the other corner. And I believe that's what's going on here. So I started mapping out what's required for this to get the phantom closure, and there's really no easy way to do this other than to play and just start keeping track of what has to be down. And the easiest way to do that is to glass off with your fingers. I also started noticing that drop target had to be down. So I started mapping out what was required. So that right kicker was the trigger. That was when it hit that right kicker, because that switch never stays down. It's just a momentary switch. But that was the last piece. It hit that kicker and it would tilt. And by the way, I looked at that tilt bob and all the tilts and everything. I'm pretty certain it's not actually tilting. It's just get a phantom tilt closure. I should zoom in so you can see. So that right kicker, that was it. That was the trigger. The drop target had to be down, and it was causing this playfield tilt to go. So I mentioned this. We got this rectangle. So that would make you believe that this left out lane switch, which is this one right there, has a shorted diode on it. So I'm going to investigate that. So these other switches I had circled here, this was when, you know, because when you start a game, when you got one ball in play, it would do it with one ball in play, and the right trough switch, that switch is closed. So I was just trying to figure out what was necessary for this thing to tilt. So I got it into a multi-ball situation, so that right trough switch was not closed, and it would still do it. So that's not a key part of it. Likewise, this ramp raise in the stroke, that's the switch for this one. When you start the game, when it's down, the switch is closed. When it's down, when it's up, it's open, but it will do it either way. So that switch is not necessary for it. So it's just the right kicker and the drop target, they both have to be closed for it to do it. And then you get the playfield tilt again. So it's this rectangle. It speaks towards a shorted diode on the left out lane. So the first thing I'm going to do, well, I'll show you what it does here. I'm going to start the game, and I'll see if I can get it. So there's several things. It doesn't do it every single time. It's a little bit periodic, you know, I say. Start up a game here. Get the ball here. We'll see if we can do it. So it should do it. That's down. And see, it didn't go. There it did go. So that switch and that switch, I did have one in the trough, and that one was closed. That switch up there is closed also. But I confirmed that that ball in the trough there, that switch closed. It'll do it either way. So, and it won't do it That slingshot won't tilt you unless that drop target is down with the closed position. So again, that third leg of that triangle is this switch right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is unsolder the leg of the diode there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So that's the switch. Let me turn the game off so that light's not flashing. A little easier to see. That's the diode that I suspect is shorted. And the other thing to do is just look for a glob of solder where it could be the diode's fine, but the switch itself is soldered. Sometimes you know somebody, myself or somebody else, has dropped a glob of solder. You know, actually this is a pretty good way to look at it with the camera here. You know, a glob of solder that bridges, because that metal plate runs the length there, and it's really easy to just have a solder on the edge there and it will short it out across the diode. So anyway, my first plan of attack, I'm going to desolder or snip. I'm just going to snip that diode. Either way, I'm going to put in a new one. So I'll snip it and see if I can still get it to tilt. And if I don't, then I'll be pretty confident that this is indeed the problem right here. So I just snipped that diode right there. I just left it in there for now. This switch is not going to work for now. That's okay. I just want to see if I can get it to tilt. If I cannot, and it's going to take me a while, because sometimes it doesn't tilt every single time. Like I showed you, that one, the second or third time it tilted, but sometimes it takes a while. It seems like if the game is warmed up, it's more prone to tilting. So I'm going to see what I can do here. Fail. I just got it to tilt. It took me a minute or two to get it to do it, but it did indeed tilt. So that was not the problem, but I do get to put in a new diode since I snipped that in two instead of desoldering it. So there's that. So I'm basically back to looking at my sheet here. It's, you know, it should be this one is the problem, but that is not the problem. But also that, well, it should be closed for that to affect it, and it wasn't closed, so that kind of gave me a little suspicion. But I'm going to start by, so here's one thing. On the drop target, it seems like sometimes if it sets and resets, sometimes that will make it go, and I may just start swapping out diodes or start cutting them out and see if I may just start cutting out these diodes, because that's a really simple thing to do. Like, just cut out the playfield tilt completely. Let's see if I can get it to go. I don't think that will affect anything, because sometimes when you get these rectangle type things of behavior, you can actually get these switches that are not even present in the machine. You get like a 62 to pop up if you get a phantom where the 62 is in the corner opposite the one that's shorted. So it can happen. So I was hoping that was it. That was kind of the logical place for it to be, but that's not it. So I'm gonna have to start digging deeper. I'm gonna start one at a time, try these other three and see if I can eliminate it. All right, so I was digging around this game and I found this down here near the coin door, or in the coin door. It's a green wire, a green and brown attached to what looks like a white and brown maybe. So I'm almost positive that's green and brown, because that's the same as on the coin chutes here. And if I look on the switch matrix, let me get out of the shadow so y'all can see a little bit better. So that green and brown or the well, shoot, I can't seem to get out. Oh, got my headlamp on. There we go. The green and brown coming down to the coin chutes. Well, this focus is horrible. There we go. So all those coin chutes are on this green and brown. So all the green ones are the strobing ones. And what somebody has done is soldered it directly into the white one. So all these go through a switch, but there's on every one of them, it doesn't show it here, there's got to be a diode for each one of these. No diode. I don't know what's going on right here, why that's like that, but it looks like that has been at one point, it looks like it was soldered to one of the tabs. I don't know. These buttons here work, at least these two. I haven't done the reset, but these two are used for getting into the menus for the diagnostics and everything, and I've been using those, so those work. I haven't tried to reset the high score. But anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is unsolder this and see what that does for me. In the meantime, I've resoldered the stuff that I had unsoldered, the that left outlaying rollover switch, and I undid that diode there on the tilt bob. I was going to do that, and then I saw this, and I think that almost, I just can't imagine that's right without having a diode in between there. So I'm going to unsolder that and see what that changes. So I unsoldered those two wires, and game still tilted, so that wasn't the problem. The game was playing. I still don't quite understand why those were soldered together. I don't know if I'm gonna leave them apart or put them back together. But first I'm gonna leave them apart till I figure out this problem. So I removed this. This is a slingshot, the kicker, that's what they call it in this game, from here. And basically when this slingshot goes, it comes down, when it comes down like that, it presses on that switch and closes it. So what I did, I started a game and I got everything in the condition. I basically dropped the drop target and I would just manually do with this, and I could not get the game to tilt. If I hit this slingshot on the back side, so it's kick, I couldn't get it to go. If I kicked this and hit the switch kind of simultaneously, I finally got it to tilt. So it's weird. I'm almost wondering if I'm kind of at my wit's end here, if this diode here is bad, because this diode is basically protect the CPU and everything from EMP pulses. And so if this is bad, maybe it's given some bad information, bad vibes to the CPU. I don't know. It's easy enough to swap it out. If I as soon as I cut it, I can tell. Well, I can measure it. If it's got a little minimal short or intermittent short, I won't be able to see that. But I've got to snip it to get it off of there. So I think I'll do that and replace it, and I don't know. See, keep chugging ahead. So I think I got it. It was that diode there. I replaced that one, so that's the slingshot coil. It's not for the switch. It's the coil for the coil that powers it. So every one of these coils on this game has a diode on there, and it's helped to keep this from the EMP pulse from backfeeding to the CPU or the MPU, if you like. And I pulled the other one off. It's laying right over here. Did a diode test in the proper way. It's like 0.55. The other way, it's 0, as it should be. But sometimes under load, they behave differently than the minimal load that the multimeter puts on there. So I played about 5 minutes with my hands and played another 5 minutes in real games with multi-ball and everything, and I can't get it to tilt anymore. So I think that was it. So it wasn't like what I was thinking. It wasn't like one of these rectangles, the classic kind of matrix theory where, like I explained before, it was a bad diode, intermittently bad diode, but only barely. But it did require a couple of switches to be down. So it's kind of, at least that's what I believe. I'm not 100% sure it's fixed yet. By the time it's posted, I'm going to be 100% sure. So if you're watching this, it's fixed. I'm going to do some more testing before I post this video, but for sure. Jane's laughing at me. What's so funny about that? That's truth. Anyway, hope you liked the video. And if you do, hit the like button and go ahead and subscribe. Adios. Well, if you're looking at the time bar on this video and thinking, I bet he didn't fix it because there's still like 5 or 10 more minutes left on this video, you were right, because it's still hosed up. So I still haven't found the problem yet. The only thing I know for sure, the only 2 switches that have to be closed, well, 3, well, just 2, yeah. That one has to be down, and you have to hit that slingshot. And not every time, but most of the time, well, maybe, I shouldn't say most of the time. Every now and then, like 1 out of 5 times, it will tilt. And it's not doing the slam tilt, it's doing the plumb bob tilt. So I don't know. I'll get back to you here in a little bit after I figure something out. Okay, I had another breakthrough of sorts. The tilt, it's actually, I don't think it's the plumb bob tilt that's tilting. I think it's the ball roll tilt. I was watching a little more closely, and when it tilts, because the plumb bob on the standard settings, it gives you 3 warnings. So it go, and the third time it actually tilts. The ball roll tilt one time, and it tilts, but it does not in the game. It just ends the ball. The slam tilts, they end the game. So I don't think it's that one, plumb bob. I think it's the ball roll tilt, which doesn't really completely clear things up, but it takes that one out of the question. So that's the right trough. That's in the ball trough, and then there's one in the left trough. And then, you know, depending on whether this is the other corner or this corner, you know, it could be, again, it could be the right jet bumper, or if it's this. So let me just draw them here. It could be something that looks like this being the problem, or it could be something like this being the problem. That rectangle there, or this rectangle here, but it's confusing to me because both of these have to be closed. So I'm still a little bit of a loss, but I'm going to start focusing on all these corners. Oh, I should show you one more thing. On this left trough, it looks like somebody's monkeyed with it in the past, which makes me think maybe that's our bad biscuit. So they even left, at least they did one good thing. They left a telltale sign that they were messing with it. They've got electrical tape. I haven't peeled it off yet, but I know that electrical tape is not factory, and it's generally, I'm gonna need both hands to get it off there. It's generally not good underneath. So somebody had snipped it and then soldered it back, put some electrical tape. But the bigger point here is this thing's been taken apart, probably replaced, and maybe something was done backwards or something. So I'm going to have to look real closely at the schematics and make sure this thing is wired up right. Having these 2 wires on there, that's probably the daisy chain. See which way. By the way, this switch does work in the switch test. I'm in the switch test right now. So if I press on it here, you can see it shows the left trough. So it's working. I actually have not measured that diode. That'll be the next thing I do, is check that diode. And in the game, I'll turn it off and check it and see if it passes the diode test. All right, I made some progress here. I think, well, I can reliably make it tilt every single time I want now. So I disconnected a bunch of the switches, because a lot of times those get messed up. People try to put them on free play and stuff, and but even though they look to actually kind of stock, but I started cutting them out because that was one potential. A lot of these potential rectangles went through there. That didn't do it. So just like messing around, and what I've realized, so there is this little metal post there that is the bracket for this thing coming across. So it helps it basically holds up this little switch right there. And it comes across, and that little metal thing bolts on that little aluminum post. What happens is because I noticed if the ball had to hit it pretty hard or it wouldn't tilt. It's like a really hard. So basically, if it hit here, the left slingshot went boom and then slung over here, so it hit really hard. That would cause it to tilt. So what's happening is that blade is going all the way over and hitting that metal post. Now that metal post is not really connected to anything, but I guess it is through that. That's what it is. I see. That's what it is. Okay, I got it now. By talking about it, I got it. So it's connected to that metal post, which is connected to the bracket, which is connected to this little wire form, which is connected to the little tiny little, the little brass hook, which goes through the play field. This is crazy. Now it's making sense. Get underneath here, and that hook is coming down there right in the center of my screen. Let me put you all this, get that up so I can point. So that little hook comes down, it goes to that switch, which goes to another switch. So it's basically shorting through all that nonsense. That's my short. Basically, it's going, so it's going through that. And actually, it's not exactly a short, because that's got the solenoid volt, or it's the, actually that's not true. It's got the, well, let me look. No, it's just a regular switch. So it's got the switch to control the solenoid, and basically, so it's going through that, from that blade to that post. The post is connected to the metal bracket. The metal bracket's connected to the wire form. The wire forms to that little brass J hook. The J hook on the other side is to the switch that this controls, and that's my short. So the solution, I could put on a stiffer rubber would be one, so it wouldn't go in as far. Or I don't know if I can fit a rubber around that little post right there. If not, I can surely put in a plastic post. It's not conductive. That would solve my problem also. I'll see if I can. I don't know. It's gonna be tight. But in any case, I'm gonna get to take this ramp apart, so that's fun. Gosh, I'm almost certain that that's what it is. So get to do all that. Yeah, rewire all this nonsense. Not that anybody's gonna put any quarters in it, but they might sometime in the future. So I'll fix all that up. But geez, this one has been half a day. And this one is just a wild one. Yeah, just shorten right there. I mean, there is a little ring for that post, but really there's not hardly room to put the rubber on there. I'm not showing it very well. It's gonna be super tight to get it in there, but that's probably what I'll try to do, to get that rubber on there and get it in there, and then I think that'll fix the problem. Oh, so I was going to show you basically this thing shorting. So I get the game started, drop that switch, and so this one here is on that bracket. So if I touch it to the leaf blade, well, now it's not. I don't have that on there very well. There it goes, just like that. Every time I touch it, it tilts. So that's no good. So anyway, that's my problem right there. Switch is grounding to that switch, and that's doing the phantom tilt. So anyway, put a rubber on there if I can. Or if I can't, I'm going to put a plastic post in there instead. So I don't know how well you can see, but I swapped in a clear plastic post back in there instead of this aluminum or steel one. And so it won't conduct electricity, and hopefully that'll keep it from tilting anymore. All right, so it's working now. I mean, I've played it enough now. I feel pretty confident that it's fixed the problem. So that was a crazy one. That was driving me insane in the membrane for sure. I mean, Jesus. Anyway, so if you got a Road Kings that's getting you a crazy tilt, you might replace that one right there with the plastic post. Or try to squeeze rubber around it. It's going to be tight to get a rubber around there, though. Anyway, again, if you like the video, click like again, or an odd number of times. Actually, not even, because that would be a dislike. And subscribe twice. Yeah, whatever. Cheers. One last little tidbit. Those two wires that were soldered together that were hanging down here, and they looked like they were attached to something. They were attached to this bottom lug on the high score reset. So I reattached that, and now press the high score reset. it's in test mode. You can see I'm pressing it and it's doing its deal. So everything's working now. Coolio.